I request dignitaries to please come on the dais. VC sir, VP sir, Registrar sir, Chetan sir, and Kartika ma'am. Supriya ma'am, please, good morning, one and all present here. A warm welcome to all esteemed guests, dignitaries, academicians, and participants for joining us for International Conference on Elevating Academic Standards and Practice in Higher Education. This conference is a collaborative initiative by the Center of Teaching and Learning, CTL, Vishwakarma University, Pune, India, in association with Globethics, Geneva, Switzerland, under the aegis of Internal Quality Assurance Cell, Vishwakarma University. We are honored to have among us distinguished leaders and experts who have dedicated their efforts for shaping higher education with innovation and excellence. For today's keynote session, we have with us Professor Naushir Contractor, Northwestern University, US. He has joined us in online mode. On the dais, we have with us Professor Siddharth Zabde, Vice Chancellor, Vishwakarma University, Professor Vasudev Gade, Vice President, Vishwakarma University, and Registrar Sir, Professor Chetan Kapadni Sir, Director IQAC Vishwakarma University, and Dr. Supriya Lakhangaonkar, Conference Chair. To begin with this August gathering on this auspicious note, we invite our esteemed dignitaries to join us for the lightening of the traditional lamp, symbolizing knowledge, wisdom, and enlightenment. I request dignitaries on the dais to come forward to light the lamp. Thank you everyone for gracing this moment of tradition and positivity. Now I request Dr. Kartika Devin, convener of the conference, to come forward for her convener address and welcome speech.
Thank you, Harshada ma'am. Good morning, everyone. It's honor to welcome Noisher Contractor, Professor Noisher Contractor. He already joined us online as a keynote speaker for the international conference, two-day international conference organized by CTL in collaboration with Globethics under the aegis of IQAC, Vishwakarma University. And professor is joining from Illinois, US. And it is, I would like to appreciate him for this effort because it's too late night for him from US. So I'm thanking also him for this initiative. So I would like to welcome all the dignitaries on dais, VP sir, Dr. Professor Vasudev Gade sir, VC sir, Dr. Professor Siddharth Jabde sir, Registrar Sir Kedasan Sir, IQAC Director Chetan Sir, Director CTL Supriya Lakhangaonkar Ma'am, and I once again welcome you all to the International Conference of CTL. Next, I would like to welcome all other faculties, deans, directors, officers, participants, everybody to the international conference. Next, I'm taking this opportunity to not explaining about the conference, why this themes. So we are organizing this conference under CTL. So CTL is more focusing on the teaching and learning practices and the academic standards and practices. So that's why we decided to give more focus on the academic standards and the practices in higher education. Next is the collaboration with the Globethics. So we are very lucky to have a collaboration with one of the non-profit organization. It is registered in Geneva, Switzerland, and they also have 4 vision areas. One of their key area is education. So they are also ready when we started the discussion, their vision and mission is also aligning with our theme. So I'm very thankful and I'm always welcome you, Rajula ma'am, to the conference. It's not needed to welcome you. You are also a partner. You are also be a part of our conference. So thank you, ma'am, and welcome you to the conference. So I think Nausha sir is with us now. Once again, I welcome you, sir. Next, I want to welcome all the participants. The participants case, we got almost 183 registration across India and 3 international registration also. The 3 international registration, it's specifically for the paper presentation. Again, in the case of a paper presentation, we got 95 plus papers for the presentation. So the presentation will happen in 2 days. So I welcome all the participants, again participants in across India, uh, the people, I mean, the faculties join from the state universities, central universities, and from Pune, we have a faculties from Spicer, we have faculties from Symbiosis, and the topmost universities, we got a registration, and I welcome all the participants to the conference. Next, I want to give emphasis on my team members. I want to welcome my team members. So I want to highlight few names of my team members. Uh, yeah, first, Harshada ma'am and Pratima ma'am. They are actually acted like a left and right for the conference because we know that me and Supriya ma'am actually spoiled their Saturdays and Sundays, day and nights last 2 months. So I'm welcome you both to the conference, of course, as a team. Again, I want to mention Archana ma'am. She managed all the 183 complete finance area aspects and she took too much efforts for the last 2 months. Again, all my team members, Suryavamshi sir, again, Preeti ma'am, one more person, Rubesh sir, again, Debasmita ma'am, Sabina ma'am, etc. etc. So we have a core team members. Of course, as a mentor, Supriya ma'am and Chedan sir was there from the starting journey itself. So once again, I'm welcoming all the team members to the conference. Next, I hope this conference will be very fruitful because we know that now the conferences are happening in the area of AI and all, but this will be a very different conference because we are focusing on the higher education aspect. So it will be fruitful to all the participants joined online and offline. Once again, I'm welcoming you all.
Thank you, ma'am, for setting the perfect tone for the conference. Now I request Dr. Supriya Lakhangaonkar to share her views on the conference.
A very good morning. Good morning, everyone. It is a privilege to welcome you all to INCON-CTL VU 2025, an international conference dedicated to advancing academic standards and best practices in higher education. Vishwakarma University, with its strong foundation in academic excellence, innovation, and global engagement, has always been at the forefront of 21st century education. Our university is committed to multidisciplinary and industry-aligned learning ecosystem. Recognized in global rankings such as the Impact Ranking, Buri Ranking, Vishwakarma University continues to drive initiatives that align with National Education Policy, that is NEP 2020, emphasizing flexible learning, interdisciplinary education, research, project-based pedagogy, and technology-enabled teaching. At the heart of these efforts is the Center for Teaching and Learning, CTL, which serves as a hub for faculty development, pedagogical innovations, and student-centric learning. CTL is dedicated to enhancing teaching practices through active learning strategies, technology integration, and curriculum innovation. By promoting outcome-based education, experiential learning, and digital transformation, we aim to bridge the gap between academic knowledge and real-world application. This conference reflects our collective mission to elevate the academic standards, foster global collaboration, and integrate emerging best practices in higher education. With distinguished keynote speakers, resource persons, expert session chairs, and research participants, we look forward to engaging discussions. I extend my sincere gratitude to our chief patrons, conference chair, conveners, the entire organizing and coordinating committee of this conference for their dedication to make this event possible. I thank all my participants and presenters for their valuable contribution. Let's collaborate, innovate, and take forward all collective vision for transformative education. Wishing you all an encouraging and interesting conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words. We are privileged to have with us visionary leader and academician Professor Vasudev Gade, Vice President Vishwakarma University, who has played instrumental role in fostering excellence in higher education. Now I invite Professor Vasudev Gade sir to address the gathering.
Good morning, Professor Noshir Tarapur, Noshir Contractor. Thank you for joining online. On the dais, we have our Vice Chancellor, Professor Siddharth Zabde, Registrar of the University, Professor Kedarsan, IQAC Director, Dr. Chetan Kapadnis, and the CTL Director. There are large number of participants who have joined online. There is about 180 participants, and we have few people offline joining here. On behalf of Vishwakarma University, I welcome you all. Vishwakarma University, as you all may be knowing, was established as a state private university in 2017. We have a strong legacy of providing quality education through the Vishwakarma group of institutions. Since 1983, we are in education. We have large number of institutes, mostly based in Pune, mostly in the technology, and we have large number of schools also. So right from schools onwards, higher education up to the doctoral degree, we provide quality education. And our institutions are accredited with the topmost grades. Vishwakarma University also, though it's a young university, has been able to establish its credibility in higher education through various rankings and accreditations. We are a multidisciplinary university, not only science and technology, but commerce and management, law, humanities, social sciences, journalism, mass communication, art and design, architecture, almost every discipline that we have, including pharmacy also. So we are interdisciplinary university, providing quality education up to the doctoral degree. This particular conference, international conference on elevating academic standards and practices in higher education, is strategically very, very important, because as far as we are concerned at Vishwakarma University, quality education and maintaining high standard in academics, that is our topmost priority. And as a university, everything that is possible to do, that we are doing it. We are keen on learning innovative practices that are followed all over the globe as far as elevating the standard of education is concerned. And therefore, it gives us immense pleasure that we have large number of international speakers. May not be possible to take all their names, but we have keynote address. Of course, Professor Noshir Contractor is going to speak immediately after this. Then we have Luis Miguel Cardoso. Then we have Dr. Rofin, Dr. Amaldev Manuel, Dr. John A. Johnson. So there are a large number of international speakers, and we will be very much interested, and large number of young participants in this conference from various parts of the country will be interested in learning these innovative practices from the leaders in higher education institutions all around the globe. We believe that it's a challenge for the academic community to maintain academic standard in present era, in the sense that the technological innovation has taken place so much that the students that we were teaching some time back, few years back, they know everything. So they almost know everything. They know, they have the domain knowledge, they have all other related subject knowledge also. So it's a challenge how to create interest among the students in the class particularly. So therefore, I always feel that teacher has to be ahead of the students. Now, how do you remain ahead of the student? That is something we must be particularly concerned about it. I feel that teachers have an important role, in the sense that being a teacher in the academic institutions, we have a freedom to design our curriculum. Now, what NEP says or what other institutions say, that's a different matter, but we are an autonomous institutions. So therefore, we have every freedom to design our curriculum. So when we can design our curriculum has to be something which is not available anywhere. Okay, so it has to be of high level. Okay, so unless it is of high level, students will not find it innovative. It is not finding it different. So therefore, designing a curriculum is something very important, and that's a authority that the teachers have, and they have to exercise that. That is one thing. Another thing, how do we evaluate? Now that is something very important. Unless you have a foolproof complete method of evaluation or assessment, okay, justice will not be done to the students who are knowledgeable and who may have certain challenges. So that is something very important. Other important thing is that in the class, gone are the days when teacher used to conduct a class and students used to listen. That is not going to work anymore. It has to be a collective learning. In the class, every student must learn from other students. At the same time, the teachers also should learn from the students. And the teacher has to lead the class in a discussion forum. If that happens, then there will be interest generated. Every student will feel that he is involved. And unless the student is involved in this process, okay, he will not be taking interest. He may not attend your classes also. Therefore, that is something very important. And third, in my opinion, if we really want to be ahead of the students, then teaching has to be linked with your research. And if you are not a good researcher, I am afraid you may not be a good teacher. So therefore, I always tell my teacher colleagues that you have to be an excellent researcher, then only you can be an effective teacher. So if you are a researcher, your domain knowledge is many times higher than all others. Okay, and when that gets linked with your teaching, then the level of your teaching also goes up. So these are certain things which, in my opinion, has to be followed by every teacher so that there is going to be interest among the students. Technology is going to stay here, whether it is AI, ChatGPT, anything that is going to stay here. But I also believe firmly that no technology can be a substitute for a teacher if the teacher is really a good teacher. So that is something which we will have to maintain. These 2 days of a conference is going to discuss all these issues and many more issues. Okay. I expect all the participants to have wider discussions, good deliberations, and at the end of 2 days, there has to be certain conclusions, suggestions coming out of this conference so that we can work on it. First session will be led by our own Vice Chancellor, Professor Siddharth Zabde. He is expert on internationalization, international relations, academic relations. He has been involved almost for 20 years, and he is the best person to talk on this particular matter. And then after that, there is going to be a keynote address by Professor Noshir Contractor, particularly on technology, enhanced learning, and digital education. Very, very important topic. I expect not only the participants who are registered, but those who are not registered, they should also attend online, offline these sessions so that they get benefited. So I thank our CTL team for organizing this 2 days conference. Congratulations to them. They have done it very well. Okay. And I really wish this conference the great success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sir rightly said that a perfect researcher can be a perfect teacher. Thank you, sir, for inspiring words and guidance. I request dignitaries on the dais to please sit in the front row. We will start with our keynote session. Now I'll introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Noshir Contractor. Professor Noshir Contractor is the Jane S. and William J. White Professor of Behavioral Sciences at Northwestern University, holding appointments in the McCormick School of Engineering, the School of Communication, and the Kellogg School of Management. As Director of the Science of Networks in Communities Research Group, he pioneers research at the intersection of the network science, computational social science, and web science, focusing on how social and knowledge network form and perform across domains such as business, healthcare, and space exploration. An award-winning author, his book Theories of Communication Network has earned multiple accolades, including the ICA Fellows Book Award. His research, consistently funded for over 25 years, has been supported by prestigious organizations such as NSF, NIH, NASA, and the Bill Gates Foundation. He is a fellow of the Academic Management AAAS, ACM, and the International Communication Association, among others, and has been honored with the Distinguished Alumnus Award by IIT Madras and numerous Lifetime Achievement Awards. Professor Contractor also serves as Executive Director of the Web Science Trust and hosts the podcast Untangling the Web, exploring the dynamic interplay between the web and society. Now I request our Professor Keynote Speaker Noshir Contractor to please begin with his keynote address. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. I need to get permission to share my screen. So if somebody in charge there can give me permission to share my screen, that would be very helpful. In the meantime, let me just say that I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and I want to congratulate congratulate you. Let me see. This might do it. Let me. Oh, sorry. I got something wrong here. One more time. Let me try that again. Okay. Think I've got this here. And then share sound. Okay. I think we have it. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Well, actually, let me see if I can change something here so that, let me stop sharing this so that I can share part of my screen so that I don't get you distracted. Give me a second. Let me do this again. Okay. Okay. So let me do, just bear with me a minute and I will, oops. Let's see here. I think this is going to be our best bet here. Are you able to see the screen and not much else right now? Yes? All good?
Yes.
Done. Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. I am just delighted to be here. I want to take this moment also to congratulate Vishwakarma University and all of the organizers who've been involved in this. This is obviously a lot of hard work that all of you have put into this. And you can tell that this is not something that happens by chance. I mean, I'm looking at the number of people you have there. You almost have 100 people live attending this session, and I know it's also being recorded. So please let me extend my congratulations to the university, also in particular to Dr. Supriya Lakangaokar, who directs the Center for Teaching and Learning there, CTL, as it was mentioned previously. I appreciated the comments also from Vice President Professor Vasudeo Gade, and of course, I'm looking forward to the international perspective from Professor Siddharth Chabade, the Vice Chancellor, and again, I also want to thank in particular Dr. Karthika Devan, who communicated with me to help me be part of this, and of course, also her co-organizer, Professor Archana Shah. I also know that a lot of this would not have happened without your collaboration with Globethics. So congratulations to all of you for making all of this possible. So I wanted to make sure that I recognize the incredible amount of hard work that goes into something like this. I've organized enough of these kinds of efforts so I know how much it takes to make these things happen. So congratulations to all of you. So my presentation today is going to be focusing on technologically enabled learning and digital education. And as was also already mentioned by Professor Gade, that you cannot do education without also doing research. So I'm going to spend quite a bit of time talking about how the research that we do is in fact part of the education that we do out here. Great. Okay. So let's go ahead and then get started on this. I want to make the case that not unlike what we already heard from Professor Gade, things are not going to be the same. There has been a dramatic shift. We cannot expect education, teaching, or research to be anything like what it has been in the past, certainly not from the days when I was in India. Which was mentioned, Karthika mentioned that I got my undergraduate degree in electrical engineering from IIT Madras. I should also mention that I actually have a connection to Pune and a very strong affection for Pune. My mother, my late mother, was born and raised in Pune. And so as a child, I visited Pune many times to visit with my grandparents. They had a watchmaker shop at 92 Mahatma Gandhi Road, MG Road in Pune. So I have a lot of good affection of spending a lot of time in my childhood visiting Pune. There were watchmakers and electroplaters. I know a lot and I have a lot of affection for Pune, and I always like visiting Pune again. So I wanted to throw that as a shout out as well about my connection with Pune, in addition to being obviously from India originally. So back to what I was saying, we have to recognize that the entire object of scientific teaching and research has changed, and the conduct of scientific teaching and research has changed. What do I mean by the distinction between these two? When I say the object of scientific teaching and research has changed, what I'm arguing is that what we teach has changed, because we don't teach about just people working today in the world, in society. We have to talk about people working with technologies like AI. So the object, what it is that we teach, has changed. Furthermore, how it is that we teach is also changing. And that was already alluded to. And that is because we have these new technologies, because we have AI, the way in which we conduct our teaching, the way in which we conduct our research has also fundamentally changed. And if we don't keep up with it, then I fear that what Vice President Professor Vasudeva Gade said is going to be true, and that no one is going to sit in our classes, no one is going to attend our classes if we are not making the conduct of scientific teaching and research to change with what is happening in society. So with that as the premise, then I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about object, mostly talking about the conduct of scientific research. So I was very fortunate that back in 2009, along with a large number of other authors that you see out there, I was very fortunate to publish an article in a magazine, in a journal called Science. Some of you may have heard of it. And it was a very short article. It was literally only about 2.5 pages, 3 pages long. The title of the article was Computational Social Science. The reason I mention this is because this was one of those articles where we said that there is something really fundamental that is changing about the way in which we understand society. In terms of, not just in terms of looking at the old-fashioned way of understanding society, where we conduct, in management science and social sciences, we conduct surveys, we do experiments, we do case studies, we interview people, etc. But what we noticed is that there is now a fundamentally new way of studying society, and that is using big data to do what we call as computational social science. That is, we now have access to such large data sets about things like the entire telephone connections about everyone, or the web connections about everyone. And this picture that you see out here is a picture that was generated by looking at the nodes in this picture that you see on the screen are the blogs that people would post, little essays that they would post, and which other blogs they would link to. And then what we did was we created a network of all the blogs on the web and who they were linking to, but then we also colored it by the blogs that tended to be on the left side of the political spectrum, and they were colored blue, and then we looked at the blogs on the right side of the political spectrum, and we colored them red. And what you see in this graphic out here is something very fascinating, that those who were on the left politically were only connecting to other blogs on the left, while blogs that were on the right side of the political spectrum were only connecting to others on the right. What does this mean? It means that even though in society, with new technologies like blogs at the time, web in general, we have the ability to connect with and engage with people from all sides of the political spectrum. But in reality, we don't. We go on the web, we go into this open spaces, but once we go there, we find it very comfortable to talk to people just like us. Today we call this the echo chamber. That is, we go into society and only talk to people like us. For example, whether it is the United States, whether it is Indian television, for example, or media sources, WhatsApp, we all belong to small groups. We all watch TV shows that are aligned with our political views. And I think that was one of the realizations that we could do with big data sets like computational social science, which we were not able to do earlier. The main message here is these are new approaches that we have to recognize are going to give us novel insights into how our society lives. It doesn't mean that we have to stop doing experiments, we have to stop doing surveys, we have to stop doing case studies. All of those are important. But in addition to all of those, we have to look at this as a new way of understanding our society, a novel way. This article was written in 2009. A decade later, many of us went back and wrote another article in Science on the right-hand side here. And in this article, our main purpose was saying, 10 years have passed since we wrote that original article. What are the new obstacles and what are the new opportunities in using this approach called computational social science? So here again, I was very fortunate, along with some colleagues, to go back to write this article and to go back and think about how have we changed our understanding of society in 10 years? What are the new insights we've gotten? And while we wrote that article in 2020, a year later, some colleagues and I wrote an article in another journal called Nature. And there we said, computational social science is good, but it makes the assumption that we are studying society as it is. But now things have changed even more. Today, we don't live in a society where we can use technology to study society. We now live in a society where we could use technology, but to study a society that is already infused with that society. We call that the algorithmically infused society. What do I mean by an algorithmically infused society? Now think about this. How many of you today live in a world where the society itself, the social processes, the political processes, the economic processes are all influenced by what technology is telling you to do? How many of you listen to a particular show or listen to some music or decide to be recommended a product based on what is recommended to you? You buy a product, you watch a movie, you listen to music based on algorithms. Someone is telling you, some algorithm, not someone, but some algorithm is telling you what should you watch, what should you read, what should you buy, and what should you listen to. In fact, it's also telling you who you should date and who you should potentially marry. That's why algorithms have become such a central part of society. And we call that the algorithmically infused society. Whether it is our politics, who we should follow, what we should believe, whether it is dating recommendations and social processes, whether it's recommendations of what to buy, all of these are now being governed by algorithms. And trying to understand society just became so much more difficult because it is not just trying to understand human behavior and how humans are influenced by other humans, but how humans are influenced by these algorithms. And the tough thing is that we don't exactly know how these algorithms work because most of them are governed by private platforms like Meta. And we don't exactly know how they operate, and we don't know when they may change how they operate. So that's what makes this so much more intriguing and challenging for us to look at. So while this is happening in terms of how our individual behavior is changing, artificial intelligence has also now changed that we no longer live in a world where humans are only interacting with humans. Today, increasingly, humans are interacting with artificial intelligence. And there are some people who think it is fantastic. They say, oh my God, we can have AI or artificial intelligence make teams better because human AI teams can be better than just human teams or just AI teams. In principle, there's a lot of promise here. In reality, That's not the case. We see several instances today where actually a team of humans and AI do worse than either just the human or just the AI, which is terrible. Think about it. You'd hope that a human plus an AI will do better than the humans and the AI, but some research is showing that if you don't be careful about how the AI is designed, the AI or the human could actually do better than the combination of the human plus the AI. Why is this happening? This is happening because we are not fully understanding how to capture the synergies between humans and AIs. In other words, just adding AI to humans is not automatically going to make human plus AI teams to be better. And we think about this a lot in terms of our teaching, in terms of our education. Today, a lot of our work that we teach people is how to work on teams. And today we are also saying, how can we ask people to work in teams where they include an AI agent to be part of a team? And so one of the areas where we've been doing research and where there is need for much more research than what we have been doing is to start asking the question, what role can AI play to make human teams or human plus AI teams better than just the normal human teams without AI, or better than just AI teams without humans? What we find is that if you have AI that performs task work, that is more beneficial than AI that regulates teamwork. What do I mean by task work and teamwork? Our research that we have done here at Northwestern University has shown us that if the AI is able to contribute work-related contributions, things like, I think you should do X, Y, and Z because I have data that shows that it's better. Those teams benefit from what the AI is contributing to task work. On the other hand, we find that if the AI is trying to make contributions not to task work, but to teamwork, those teams are not going to do better. Well, what do we mean by AI contributing to teamwork? In teams, one of the things that we know has to happen is that in addition for people to contribute task work, some members of the team, human or AI, contribute to the regulation of the team. That is asking questions like, oh, we haven't heard from so-and-so. Have we addressed this particular issue? Can we move on to the next issue? I see we are running out of time. We need to move to the next issue. Process issues. That's what we mean by teamwork. To what extent does an AI agent contribute to the team, not just by providing content, which is task work, but process issues? It turns out that based on our research, humans prefer to have an AI that contributes task work and not teamwork, which basically means that they look to other humans to contribute to management of the team, the processes of the team, and so on and so forth. The next finding we find, which is also very, very interesting, goes back to research that has been done for many years in management, which finds that as a rule, if you ask humans who they want to work with on a team, they tend to say that they would prefer to work with somebody who is a lovable fool rather than a competent jerk. So ask yourself this question. When you form a team, who would you like to work with? Many people will say, you assume, oh, of course I want to work with a competent person because they will bring new competencies to the team. It turns out that actually the research has shown us again and again that people prefer not to work with somebody who is a competent person if that person has low likability or what we call a jerk. Competent jerks are mostly avoided. Many people will say, you know what, I prefer to work with a lovable fool, which of course is a real shame because what you're saying is that I'm going to dispense and sacrifice competence because I don't want to work with a jerk. Good news. When it comes to AI, what we find is that humans, even if they are not willing to work with another human who's a competent jerk, they seem very, very comfortable to work with an AI agent that is a competent jerk. So this is some research that we have found that shows us some interesting implications of how humans treat AI differently from how they would treat other humans. What I have shown you so far is primarily focusing on what it is that we are changing in what we have to teach. So my point here so far has been that as we look to teach the next generation of students, many of who are in the audience here today, one of the things that you need to keep in mind is we have to start teaching people how to work in ways that include AI agents. Because, as was mentioned earlier, they're not going anywhere. They are here to stay. And our goal is to figure out how to work best with them. And as I showed you earlier, simply adding AI to the mix by itself is not going to make things better. We have to learn about how to be creative, how to be very prudent in the ways in which we use AI so that they benefit us rather than end up being less beneficial than just humans working together or just AI. That's the first part of my presentation. For the next and the last part of the presentation, I'm going to move to the second, and that is it's not just important that we think about what it is that we teach, the object, but how it is that we teach, and how is it that we do research. We have seen some really amazing examples in the last few years, including Nobel Prize winning examples of how AI is changing the way we do research. For the rest of my talk, I'm going to talk a little bit at a more general level, not in terms of some of these deep mind technologies, but in more general levels about how you and I can change the way we do research and the ways in which we do teaching. Starting today, I'm going to be much more low level, not as esoteric as these Nobel Prize winners. And I hope this will be of value to all of us as we move forward. To do that, I want to step back a little bit and go back to an issue that has been with us for centuries, certainly for decades, but certainly for centuries as well. When any new technology has come on the scene, Gen AI being the latest, but any new technology in the past has come on the scene, we always seem to ask ourselves the question, is this technology good or bad? And there are some people who are what we call utopians. These are people who go, technology is absolutely going to be an unalloyed blessing. It's going to be the mitigation for all our problems. And if someone says, as they do today, well, but look, Gen AI is using up a lot of energy. It's using up a lot of environment. It's creating a lot of environmental problems. The utopian will tell you, oh, sure, in the short term, it's using a lot of energy. But once we make AI to be really good, it will solve the energy problem. In short, so a utopian believes that even if a technology creates problems in the short term, the technology can solve those problems in the long term. That's the utopian. The second category of persons are what we call dystopians. A dystopian believes that technology is an unmitigated curse. It's what would be called in Marxist terms the opium of the masses. We are the slaves of technology. The technology is not our slave. We are the slaves of technology. We do what technology tells us to do. And anyone who has spent a lot of time connected to their mobile phones, watching various apps. I know in India, TikTok is banned, but in this country, it's still very popular. But any of these apps, whether it's WhatsApp or whatever else, if you're watching those things and you're addicted to it, people will go, yeah, you're probably a slave of the technology. A third group of people say, no. Technology is neutral. It's not really good. It's not really bad. It's just neutral. There's nothing good or bad about technology. I think that while this may sound reasonable, it's actually quite problematic. Because I am firmly of the opinion that the fourth perspective is much more useful. And that is technology, it's not, the neutral people are wrong in saying that technology is neither good or bad. The fourth category say technology is both good and bad at the same time. And that's what we mean by what we call the dual effects of technology. That is, any technology has both positive effects and negative effects. Our goal in trying to use the technology is to see what we can do to have the positive effects be more amplified and try to reduce the negative effects. That's where policy comes in. Not just policy at the national level, but educational policy. When we think about how do we make policy in our classes, educational policy in classes, about the use of Gen AI. This is the question we are addressing. Can we simply say, oh, we should ban Gen AI? I think that's problematic. I am old enough to know when the calculator was first introduced into the classroom. Some of you may know this, your parents will know this. But I was young enough where when I was in high school, we used an old technology called logarithmic tables and something called a slide rule. And then all of a sudden, we were introduced to this new technology, this novel, exciting technology at the time called the calculator. And there were companies from the United States like Texas Instruments and companies from Japan like Casio that were making this. And for a while, schools banned us from using it. They said, no, you cannot use it in the classroom because you'll never learn how to calculate. Well, that didn't last very long. Today, calculators reside everywhere, whether it's our smartphone or whether it's our Apple watches or wristwatches or digital watches. It's everywhere. We have now found that doesn't make sense to resist a new technology. We should incorporate it, but think about what that means for education. We can't ask questions in our examinations. We can't teach topics in class that simply ask people to do what a calculator can do. Because if you do that, that's useless because we now have technologies that can do that. That's the challenge we are facing today. If we set up educational assignments that Gen AI or generative AI can do easily, then what's the point? But what that means is that how do we reimagine what education looks like? How do we train students? How do we give them the skills they need, not to do what technology has done, but to go beyond that? And that's a large part of what I'm going to talk about in the last half hour I have here. A lot of what we have done so far, and again, I will say that very presciently, this was already mentioned by Professor Gade in his comments, and that is, we cannot think about technology as a substitute. It is a substitute, there's no doubt about it. When we first think of any new technology, we adopt it because it is a substitute for what we're doing. In fact, if you look at all the technologies we've adopted, they've been adopted on the basis of 5 predictors of the adoption of a new innovation. The first is relative advantage. Is the new technology giving us an advantage over the old technology? Second, observability. Can I observe the benefits of the new technology over the old way of doing things? The third is adaptability. Can I take this technology and adapt it to what I'm doing? The fourth is compatibility. Is it compatible with the way I was doing things previously? And then finally, trialability. Can I try it at a relatively cheap cost so that I can see whether I want it or not? And if I can do those things, I'm more likely to adopt a technology. These were parameters put together by a very famous scholar from the field of communication by the name of Everett Rogers, who talked about the diffusion of innovations. And today we see it is applied to things like automobiles when they first came out, telephones, video conferencing, the web, and the internet. But today we stand at the brink of a new set of technologies, what we call generative AI. Whether it's Gemini, Mistral, Llama, ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, or Perplexity, these are changing how we think of it. But I still think that even though these are new technologies that are going to shape and reshape education, that are going to reshape research, one of the things we have to be mindful is to what extent are we simply thinking of this as a substitute for what we already do? And let me give you an example of where we got that so wrong. When we first began to have video conferencing, when we first began to have telecommunications, and those technologies were quite expensive in the 1980s, people who were selling you the technology said, why don't you spend more on technology, which is what you see out here with this red line? Because if you spend more on technology and do more video conferencing, you can reduce the amount of travel you need. For example, you can say what we're doing right now is, look, we're using Zoom technology to have an event that has 96 people at this moment who are logged into it. And I didn't have to travel to Pune for doing this. Isn't that wonderful? Well, that sounds very appealing. But what we learned from research is that as we spend more on technology, we ended up spending more on travel. How is that possible? Well, the more often that I talk to people who are at Pune, at Vishwakarma University, even though right now I'm talking to all of you through Zoom, the chances are that the more I interact with you electronically, the greater the likelihood that I am going to actually visit with you, have potential collaborations with you, build further connections with you, and that means the travel budget is going to go up. And these are the kinds of things we don't think about. So substitution is very useful to adopt a technology, but it is not so useful to understand whether we really benefit from the technology. The next thing that happens after substitution is what we call enlargement. And what that means is that as we use a technology, it becomes so much easier. Wow, if I have ChatGPT or Gen AI more generally, I can write 10 papers in the same time that I wrote one paper. I can solve 20 problems in the time that I had to solve one problem. And indeed, that is exactly why every technology in the last 200 years has developed so rapidly. Electricity reached a quarter of the US population in 46 years. Radio in 22 years. The PC in 16 years. The mobile phone in 13 years. The web in 7 years. Facebook in 5 years. A quarter of the US population. TikTok took 3 years to reach a quarter of the US population. But guess what? Jedi reached that in 2 months after the launch. People began to see that this was something that they could use to help them a lot. That's what we call the enlargement phase. When you get to new technology, you're going to use it to do a lot more. There are many laws about this. The Moore's law that many of you may have heard of is that computational power doubles every 18 months. Metcalfe's law says the value of a network is proportional to the number of users squared. So as the number of users goes up, the value goes up by the square of that. And in general, we are living in an exponential age. And people don't understand that. But just to give you an example, if you have one adopter of an app and users double every 3 days, one adopter, and you say, the users only double every 3 days. Well, what does that really mean? It means after 30 days, you have 1,000 adopters. One adopter of an app and the users double every 3 days. But you go 30 days longer, now you have 1 million adopters. Then you wait another 30 days and now you have 1 billion adopters. That's what we mean by the exponential growth or the enlargement of these technologies. And of course, today, the original internet is no longer able to have all the addresses that we need. The original internet, we thought that, we will never have more than 4,300 million devices. And then we realized, oh, we need to come up with a new system that allows us to have unique addresses for 340 followed by 36 zeros or 340 undecillion devices. These are the number of unique devices that are connected to the internet. Why? Because it's not just connecting mobile phones and laptops. We are now connecting the internet. And in fact, I have this picture here on the right-hand side is something, an egg tray that I actually have in my refrigerator right here downstairs in my house here in Evanston, Illinois. That egg tray has an internet IP address. What does that do for me? What it does for me is that wherever I am, I can always look to see how many eggs I have in that egg tray and how long have they been in that egg tray. So that if I'm in a grocery store and I'm trying to buy new eggs, I know exactly how many eggs are in my refrigerator and how old they are so that if I need to buy new eggs. Everything we have is being connected to the internet. But one problem is this is not uniform for everyone. You live in India, you work and study at a really prestigious university. But as you know well, not everyone in India has the luxury and the privilege that you do. And that's why we have to think about the gaps that exist in society. That even if all these technologies is going to make us all better, those who did not start out as very good may have a little bit of a rise. But those like you, and I would say me, who started out at a higher level, will get a much greater benefit from the technologies. What does this mean? It means that the gap between these technology, between the haves and the have-nots is increasing. And I think it's something to think about as we think about education, as we think about the workforce. We have to ask ourselves the question, to what extent are these new technologies that at one level is helping everyone get better, is creating a problem because it is helping some people who started out better to be much, much better, while those who did not start out to be so good to be only somewhat better, but as a result have increased the gap between the haves and the have-nots. This brings us to the problem of all technologies that have gone back for a long time, including Gen AI, as I will show you in a minute. A Nobel Prize-winning economist by the name of Robert Solow famously observed, you can see the computer age everywhere except in the productivity statistics. What does this mean? It says we use technologies, we think it's going to make us more productive, and guess what? The results keep showing us that those who use more technologies are not by and large more productive. This Nobel Prize winner called that the productivity paradox, and some people have called it by his name, Robert Solow, as the Solow paradox. We are seeing exactly the same thing now in the context of AI. In this article that was published by Eric Brynjolfsson and his colleagues, they called it the AI productivity paradox, which means that even though we are using technologies, as I mentioned earlier, just adding AI is not going to make you better. And that's what we see. It makes some people better, but not everyone better. That brings me to the last part of this presentation in terms of the framework. And that is, the reason is because just using AI or just using any technology is not going to lead to higher levels of productivity until and unless we think about this thing called reconfiguration. Reconfiguration means, are we changing the way in which we do teaching? This is my point. This is my main message. Are we changing the ways? Are we reconfiguring the ways in which we do education? Are we reconfiguring the ways in which we do research in the presence of this new AI technology? And if we are not doing that, we are really not helping our next generation to be more productive. If we simply use AI to be a substitute for what we did, or if we simply use AI to do more of what we did, which is enlargement, we are not going to get the productivity payoffs that we want. If we really want to reimagine, which is at the heart of this conference is titled elevating academic standards and practices in higher education. That elevation can only come when we think about how we can reconfigure education, reconfigure research in order to be able to get the kind of payoffs, the positive payoffs that we did. And we've seen examples of this. Remember, the original automobile was when it was first invented, people thought, oh, I can use it in my village to go to the shop, to the bazaar, as you would say in India, right? Or to the mandir, the temple. But that didn't really give you benefits. Okay, you can go many times a week, you can get fresh groceries every day. That's not going to give you the benefit. The real benefit came when you moved and you reconfigured the automobile, not just to take you from your home to the local market, but to create an entire highway system. In the United States, it's called the interstate highway system. I have been to India many times and I've seen in the last few decades how much better that is created in that particular context. The whole highway system in India today is amazing. And that has transformed what we think of in terms of commerce, in terms of family, in terms of and it's just fundamentally changed it. That's reconfiguration. The same thing about ARPANET and Internet. Originally, the ARPANET and Internet was created simply for computers in the military to be connected. Today, as you will know from what we're looking at now, it's completely transformed the ways in which we conduct commerce and all kinds of interactions. Scholarship, everything has changed as a result of the internet. And the same thing is true for the World Wide Web. In fact, as I mentioned, today, the World Wide Web is not just connecting computers, it's connecting all our devices, whether it's our automobiles, whether it's my egg tray in my refrigerator, as I was joking, but every device is now part of it. That's a reconfiguration, and that's what we need to look at. And I think it's important for us to follow what a futurologist by the name of Amara said, that we get excited about technology and we overestimate the effect of the technology in the short term, but we underestimate that effect in the long term. And that's what we need to be really keeping in mind. What is the long-term effects of this? How is it going to change society in the long term? Not just how is it going to change my ability to teach a class tomorrow. And so we have to think about how AI, whether it's in research, whether it's in education, to what extent are we training our students to think of AI in three ways: as a clerk, as a colleague, and as a coach. And the last few slides that I have here are basically going to talk about how AI is being used to change the way in which we think about research. Today, when you have a class and you're teaching a class, you can have your students use AI to go through all of these stages. AI can help you come up with research questions. AI can help you have your students do a literature review. AI can help you have your students come up with hypotheses and the wording of questions you want to do to test the hypotheses. AI can provide you with the code, the documentation to do the analysis. AI can even do a simulation to see how well your code works. Now, I'm saying all this and it may sound very positive. There are some real problems that today AI can't do all these things with a degree of reliability, which means that human oversight is incredibly important. But think of it this way. When you are thinking about doing any of these things, whether it's in a classroom project or a research project, you often talk to your friends. You say, I'm trying to do this. Can you give me some ideas? And you brainstorm with them. My suggestion is to think of AI as just one of them. And just like one of them may be wrong about something they suggest to you, and you are aware of it, and you say, listen, that person is my friend. This is what they're saying. I'll take what they're saying, but I'll take it with a pinch of salt. The same thing could be true for AI. So whether it is in generating hypotheses, and we have articles that tell you, and you can look at these are articles that I've seen recently in the last couple of years. Can ChatGPT be used to generate scientific hypotheses? The answer is, it can be pretty promising. Is it error-free? Absolutely not. That's what it says. While the error rate is high, it seems to be able to effectively structure vast amounts of scientific knowledge. Think of it as a friend. who may not always be right, but would be a good person to brainstorm with. At Stanford, they're trying to use these technologies to identify causal AI, understand to what extent A causes B. This is a big issue when we look at any kind of causal inference in sciences. So whether it's students who you're educating in your classes or in your own research, these are ways in which we can use technology. They can help with hypothesis generation. They can help in the different phases of design. They can even help with data collection. More and more people today are relying on using AI agents as a substitute for humans. And you go, how is that possible? Well, it turns out that AI agents can sometimes be more honest as human subjects than humans are. Recently, you may have heard we had a presidential election in this country. And we learned that when opinion pollsters went to people and asked them who they would vote for in the presidential election, people didn't always say the truth because they were afraid. They would look at the person asking the question and go, what do you think that person may want me to say? It's a concept called as social desirability. You want to answer the survey question in order to please the person asking you the question, even though that's not how you will actually vote on election day. Guess what? If you have surveys of AI agents representing humans, you can ask them to be more honest. And in fact, the research has shown us that those surveys that were done with AI agents were more accurately predicting the presidential election results than when you asked human beings. There was another study that was done to can AI replace human subjects along the lines of what I told you. And then we also found that you can look at different, as I said, the polling, that you can use the potential of AI-based political issue polling has been shown to be more successful. As a result, today there are many companies that will give you data sets where you can do studies not on actual humans, but what are called as synthetic users. These are AI agents that embody and will reflect accurately what a real human would say. And that means that we have now reduced the cost of doing a lot of studies in the social sciences. Once you have an article, then you send it out for review. Guess what? Many articles today are being reviewed by reviewers who are using Gen AI to help them. So they will get an article and they said, you need to review this article to see if you can publish it. Or in a classroom, you could have a teacher who gets assignments from their students. We know that the students might be using Gen AI to write the paper, but we also know that in many cases, the teachers are using Gen AI to grade the papers. So it's gone both ways now. So whether it's a reviewer of a manuscript or a reviewer of a paper, we are living in a world where Gen AI is helping people write the paper, and Gen AI is helping people grade or review the paper. And we have to recognize that that's the world we're living in today. And as we go forward, we have to come up with policies, whether it is for journal articles, whether it is for classrooms. How do we decide what are the policies we want to use and what are the assignments we want to give our students so that they are not simply going to use Gen AI to answer the questions, but that we are going to change the questions we ask. We're going to change the assignments where, yes, they can use AI, but we still will be able to evaluate what the human can do, not simply by giving out everything, asking AI to do everything, but adding human value to what they can get from the AI agent. And I think these are some of the ways in which we are seeing these things become better. I want to close this presentation by showing how AI can be used for research dissemination. One of the things that we have seen in society is that people who are academics or people who are in classrooms, we ask students to read papers. Sounds pretty reasonable to do. We ask them to read a textbook, etc. But we know that in many ways, students, all of us, not just students, learn better not only by reading an article, but by having a conversation about it, or by listening to someone describe what we have done to someone else. Very often I'm asked, how would you describe what you do to your grandmother, or to a person who's not an academic, or to a person in industry who wants to learn about what you're doing, but not in the language that you talk, in the academic language that you talk, in the academic lingo. Here again, AI is extremely powerful in the ways in which it can help us take what we have done and make it accessible to a public, to a general public audience. We know there's a lot of misinformation about science. Can we use AI to help take what we have done and disseminate it in a way that is easy for the public to understand, easy for policymakers to understand? And so this article that was written by, co-authored by one of my colleagues here at Northwestern, Nicholas Diakopoulos, tells you how we can use this to generate simulating policy impacts. Because one of the big stories and frustrations is we do a lot of research, we educate our individuals, but policymakers don't necessarily use what we have done before they make their policy. And so there's a lot of ways in which AI can enhance the perception of scientists and the public understanding of science. So what did I do to prove to you that what I'm saying is not just a pipe dream? Here's what I did. I took the program from this particular event that we are having here, and I used AI to synthetically generate a video promoting this event that we're at for the general public. Imagine if you want to mention this to somebody who's not an academic, but who might want to know about what we are doing at this conference that is being held by Vishwakarma University. So what I did was, let me see, where am I? Here we go. Sorry. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to click on this link and see what it is. So you see this little video? I used AI to create this 1-minute video about our conference.
Namaste. Yeah. Education.
Sorry.
Also offers interesting Welcome to the Namaste. Welcome to the International Conference on Elevating Academic Standards and Practices in Higher Education. This conference is organized by Vishwakarma University in Pune, India. It offers keynote addresses on topics such as technology-enhanced learning and digital education, internationalization in higher education, global challenges in higher education. It also offers interesting panels on topics such as student-centered learning, faculty development and pedagogical innovations, and quality assurance mechanisms in higher education. We hope you enjoy
So
it.
there you go. It took me 5 minutes to come up with this video, right? 5 minutes is all it did to create a video that talks about how we can make what we are doing as more accessible to the general public. So, and then I also used the same approach with another technology. So this one's called Synthesio, free, anyone can do it. I didn't pay anything for this. And then I also use a technology called Notebook LM Demo, which some of you may have heard of. This is a Google product where all I did was I took the PDF file of the program and I uploaded it, and it created a podcast about about what we're doing. So it's a podcast that is telling people what happened at the conference. Now, the conference hasn't happened. We just started the conference. But the podcast it created was as if the conference happened a couple of days ago. I wanted to take a listen and notice also that it makes a couple of mistakes. AI is not perfect, but I wanted to make sure I showed you the benefits of it, but also some of the problems. So let's see if we can take a listen to a few minutes of this one here. Let me see if this can work. This is what it looks like. Let me see if I can load the conversation here. It'll take a minute here. There we go.
Okay, so today we're going, deep diving into higher education.
Woo, fun!
Yeah, always fun. Always a good time.
Always. Aware.
We're going to be looking at specifically this international conference
Okay.
that happened in Pune, India. Just recently, actually.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, just a couple days ago from when we're recording this.
Wow.
So very fresh, very fresh.
Exciting.
And it's called Elevating Academic Standards and Practices in Higher Education.
Catchy. I like it.
Yeah, it's very, straight to the point.
It is no messing around.
Like, we're here to elevate things.
Exactly.
So what's interesting to me is who's putting this thing on?
Yeah, who's behind this?
It's Vishwakarma University's Center for Teaching and Learning.
Okay.
There are a few people, specifically we should mention Dr. Supriya Kangankar, Dr. Karthika Devan, and Professor Arkana Shaha.
Oh.
They're the ones that are really the driving force behind this.
The masterminds.
Yeah, exactly. And they've partnered up with Globethics.
Okay.
Which is an organization based in Geneva.
Interesting. So we've got like a really cool, local and global partnership going on here, bringing those perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
It really speaks to how higher education is now like a global
absolutely
endeavor.
Yeah.
But let's get into the actual conference here.
Let's dive in.
Yeah, so there's 2 full days of sessions.
Okay.
Everything from technology in the classroom to even some of the challenges of higher education, specifically in Portugal.
Interesting.
Yeah. So where do we even begin with all of this?
Well, day 1 was all online, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because, opens it up to a much wider audience.
Right.
So they pick things off with addresses from the Vice Chancellor and Pro-Vice Chancellor of Vishwakarma University, just kind of setting the stage.
Kind of like welcoming everybody.
Yeah, exactly. A virtual welcome.
I like that.
But then they dove into, I think, a really, interesting and timely topic.
Oh, yeah.
Technology-enhanced learning and digital education.
I feel like we've been talking about this.
Forever.
Forever.
Yes, but, things are always evolving.
Yeah.
This session was led by Professor Anuki Contractor from the USA.
Okay, yeah.
And what stood out to me was her focus on virtual reality.
So you notice that she thought I was a woman who was talking. She said her focus on virtual reality. I'm not really talking about virtual reality. But the point being that then they go on at some length. In fact, I could play a little bit more about this if you want, but it is where was it? Yeah. And then she talks about other things in the conference.
And not just like the, ooh, this is shiny and new.
Right. Holy grail of education.
Yeah.
Like if we could all just figure out how to make that happen.
But make learning actually, effective for everybody.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so what else did they get into on this first day?
Well, then we shifted gears a little bit.
And we had Professor Sridhar Jadhav talking about internationalization in higher education. And this is such a big topic.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
Right. So it's basically about integrating a
So you get the picture. My point is that these are ways in which we need to use it so that even if we don't want to do it, we don't always, academics and teachers don't always want to be able to translate this for the general public. We have ways of doing this. And so part of what I wanted to do, and there's a wonderful article in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science that was published late last year called Can Gen AI Improve Social Sciences? And so I want to just leave you with 3 takeaways from this talk here in the last couple of minutes. And that is, first, AI won't replace scientific research or education, but researchers and educators with AI will replace researchers and educators without AI. And we need to think of this as collaborative intelligence. It's not just AI, it's just not experts in AI, it's our domain experts, exactly what we have in this particular meeting here. We can't assume that if we just use technologies to substitute and to enlarge, we're going to be able to make a paradigm shift. At best, we'll make a paradigm glide. If we really want to make a paradigm shift in what we're talking about, elevating academic standards and practices in higher education, if we want a paradigm shift in that, we have to think about reconfiguration. And with that, I want to thank you very much. We are at the end of my time out here, and I want to acknowledge the people who have funded what I've done here. And I wish you well. Thank you again.
Detailed view of community behavior, technology integration, and AI, which can guide academicians and researchers in shaping future teaching and research methods. Now session is open for discussion. Online attendees can put their questions in chat box. Offline attendees can share their views through mic.
The chat box is disabled for participants, so the host has to enable that one. They have to select the option everyone. Open the chat box and
Is it possible that they can ask the question through the Q&A rather than the chat?
Yeah, there is one question in the Q&A already. So it is anonymous. Sir, does that mean ratings, reviews, and recommendations are being influenced? Will not AI limit the human intelligence? So this question came as you started actually your presentation. Beginning of your presentation, someone put this question.
I think it's a good question. I think that it is being influenced. And will AI limit the human intelligence? I think that it can manipulate the human intelligence. I don't know whether it will limit the human intelligence, but it can manipulate it. Because today we are in a gaming system where everyone knows that the most valuable part of economy is what is called the attention economy. We only have 24 hours a day. And so everyone is vying for our attention. And so these are all ways, ratings, reviews, and recommendations are ways in which technology is being used to see how we can attract the attention of a human being for every second out of the 24 hours in the day. And so in that sense, we are being influenced by the technology, and that we can decide to what extent AI is going to limit the human intelligence or to what extent AI is manipulating the human intelligence. I believe that if we, as a society and as a set of policies, choose, we can make this, again, one of those examples where it will not limit the human intelligence, but left to its own devices. And perhaps today it's true in society that it is limiting human intelligence. If you think of the number of people who spend hours on end what they call doom scrolling, just scrolling through their phones, whether it's TikTok or any other app, that would be an example of this. Another question that is asked here in the text, and I see Sunita has raised her hand, but in the text, I'll quickly answer Pradipta's question. Can AI be empathical like us? This has been a topic of much discussion, right? In fact, one of the employees at Google lost their job because they believed that that the AI agents that they were developing at Google had human-like empathy, and the management did not believe that had been realized yet. I think that there is going to be a lot of debate on how one defines empathy. The Turing test was easy because the Turing test was created to say, can humans distinguish between a human that they're interacting with versus a computer? Empathy is a lot more complicated. As you may know, that there have been new agents that have been developed to be what are called AI companions, not agents in the sense of doing things for us, but companions in the sense of becoming our friends. And one of them, Companion.ai, was in the news about a year ago because a young boy, I should say, created a friendship with one of them, and then the AI companion, convinced this boy, to commit suicide to join this person in the afterlife. And that became a very, very tragic story. So there are issues of this that are going to come up. I want to make sure we go to Sunita before we go to other questions that are coming up in the chat. Sunita, I don't know how you could raise your hands or how you would do it. Are we able to hear from Sunita or?
I think Sunita is a participant. She has to post her question in the Q&A box.
Oh, I see. So there's no audio for them. So sorry, Sunita. Why don't you type your question either in the Q&A or chat, and then I'll answer it there. In the meantime, I'll take a question from Anas. It says, I'm an assistant professor in field of occupational therapy, and LLMs like these are quite helpful in proofreading, etc. Is it good or bad to take the help of AI chatbots at the starting of the career? Will it affect my skills? I think it's a fair question, Anas. I think that the cat is out of the bag, the genie is out of the bottle. I don't think that these are going back in there. So my personal opinion, and I know that this may not be one that everyone agrees with, my personal opinion is that it is good, not bad, to take help of AI chatbots at the starting of at any stage in the career, not just the starting. However, what you have to ask yourself is what value you bring to it. If all you're doing is taking the chatbot's answer and putting it in there, then you're going to be out of a job. So you have to figure out, Anas, what is the value add that you have that goes beyond what help you're getting from the chatbot in order to make sure that you are providing additional value that goes beyond it. In many ways, I think that's an easy thing to do, because in some ways you could say that a chatbot may be doing something that is more of the routine work, and then you can add additional things to that. So I hope that gives you some response to your question. An anonymous attendee says, in fact, AI is helping us accelerate our activities and add sophistication in the process. I agree with both of those, but I would caution that if it is simply accelerating our activities, we are back to the stage where it's in the enlargement phase, which means we're doing more of what we did. And if that's all we're trying to do in the long term, that's not going to give us the productivity benefits. Now, the productivity benefits are much more likely to come in the second part of your question, which is adds sophistication in process. That's the part that I think we need to be thinking through much more carefully. How do we add sophistication or reconfiguration to the ways in which we are doing things?
Sir, one question from my side, and thank you for your brilliant presentation. And you covered quite a lot, mainly about the research. And of course, the audience here, they are mainly research scholars and professors belonging to different universities. And I just thought of the banking sector and also the army in any country. And a lot of confidential matters are kept, secrets. And like you may remember the Twin Tower attack when AI was kind of not there. So what are the cautions needed there? Like, of course, it might be boosting, and also, like the data, if it goes out, what about the privacy? So can you throw some light in that regard?
Sure. So, of course, it's not surprising that when I stopped sharing my screen, but when I was sharing my screen in the last slide there, that one of the things that I had on my screen was that a lot of the funders for my research are the Army Research Office, the Army Research Lab. So you see that the Army is definitely has a very great interest in doing what we're talking about right now, for obvious reasons. And the Army Research Institute was also there, right? So there's a lot of funding that the Army is interested in this. Of course, that is going to change. And what that means basically is that in many ways, the ways in which defense is going to change around the world is because a lot of what has been done by humans will now be handled by agents of one kind or another. There's controversy about that, because it means that in the past, we used technology to help the humans make the decisions. Today, it could be that we may be reaching a stage where the AI will make the decision of where to target a particular attack, for example. And those are not without value. And as a result, just like in any other aspect of society, these AI agents, we really have to think hard about what the value systems are for them. How are they making their decisions? If we assume that there is a simple algorithm that allows you to do it, that's not how humans make decisions. There are a lot of factors that are not easy to be programmed in these situations, or for machine learning, or to learn these systems, etc. But I think, again, it would be naive to say that the future, that the cyber war of the future will be one that is not going to be heavily influenced by AI. And we have to prepare for that. So, thank you for your question.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, all participants. In interest of time, we will finish this session, and we will compile the questions and send to you, sir. Thank you so much for your patience. Now, I will hand over mic to Dr. Pratibha Mahajan. I, Dr. Harshada, take your leave. Thank you.
Thank you again very much, everyone. Enjoy the conference. It's a little after midnight, so I think I'm going to go to bed here, but I will look forward to listening to the recordings. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. I'm truly honored to welcome you all to this international conference today. Before we proceed further, I would like to sincerely thank my co-host, Dr. Harshada Sadgare, for her excellent coordination and for setting the stage for today. Now, moving forward, it is time for another keynote address by Professor Dr. Siddharth Chabre, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Vishwakarma University. Dr. Siddharth Chabre is the founding Vice Chancellor of Vishwakarma University, Pune, and a distinguished academic leader with expertise in education, research, intellectual property rights, technology commercialization, and administration. With extensive experience in fostering industry, academia, government, social collaborations, he has been instrumental in positioning Vishwakarma University as a globally recognized institution. A qualified patent agent, Dr. Chabre has drafted above 300 patent applications and served as a technical expert in patent litigation cases. He has held key international advisory roles with organizations such as Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, UNESCO, and Asian Development Bank. Under his leadership, Vishwakarma University has gained international recognition, securing a place among the top 200 universities in the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings 2021 for its contributions to affordable and clean energy. His commitment to innovation and global collaboration is reflected in VU's strong partnerships with NTU Singapore, Hof University Germany, SUNY Binghamton USA, KAIST Korea, and Harvard Business School. Dr. Chabre has contributed to the fields of nanotechnology and intellectual property rights through his authored books, enriching knowledge in these vital areas. His visionary leadership continues to foster academic excellence, research, and global collaboration. Now, I would like to invite
Professor Noshir Contractor, Jen S. and William J. White Professor of Behavioral Science, Northwestern University, USA. Sir, I think it's early morning for you out there in the time zone. Then Dr. Rujula V., Regional Manager, Globethics, South Asia Center, Bangalore. Our officers, deans, dear students and participants who are joined in online mode. So let me first state, even though because I am a Vice Chancellor here, they have to say that it's a keynote address. So let me say, after Professor Noshir Contractor Sir's keynote address, I am here to just provide some of my reflections. It may not be keynote address per se in next 10 minutes as decided. And they requested me to speak on internationalization of higher education. So I have a few thoughts that I thought let me share with you. And first of all, it's a great learning, Professor Contractor, listening to you and going through all the slides, and very well crafted presentation through the very profound research, and that has really set tone for this entire conference of elevating academic standards and practices in higher education. A few points I thought let me share with respect to internationalization of higher education. And I will start with the same concepts, means what it means to be internationalization. I personally look at it as interculturalization, because when we talk about internationalization of the education, that means from different countries, transcending transnational, cross-cultural, all those aspects. That means we work, students, faculty, they work with foreign, different education systems. I thought of sharing few thoughts related to this cultural exchange and potentially creating this intellectual bridge between the two countries, two cultures. And as a Professor Contractor has stated, these are some of the notes I have taken. are we in a, he stated this, it's an attention economy, correct? So there is a term called attention economy. And when we look at the knowledge economy initiated after Second World War 1945, where knowledge is or was, I must say, useful in creating value, economic benefit for the society. But now let me state what CEO Hassabis of the DeepMind, according to him, what AI means. According to him, what AI means is it's a computation system that turns information and data into knowledge. It's a computation system that turns information and data into knowledge. That means, can we say that the knowledge creation has been taken care in addition to humans by the AI systems also, correct? Essentially, when we talk about education system, we are in this entire knowledge workers or knowledge transactions. We create knowledge, we transfer knowledge, then knowledge is transmitted and the value is created. There is a debate now, so are we really in the post-knowledge economy? Because the knowledge is being created, taken care, generated by AI systems. In the post-knowledge economy, maybe it's attention economy, whatever it is something beyond that. And as Professor Contractor stated, I will just, my thought, future is faster than we think. Rather than we are in the future before we know future is coming, approaching us. And this future, in terms of the emerging technologies such as AI, confluence of nanotechnology, biotechnology, information technology, and cognitive science. It is famously called nano, bio, info, cogno. Correct. It's a convergence of all these domains. By the way, AI is a subset of cognitive science. Future that is up to us may not be a logical extension of the coming future, but it's something exponential, as he has mentioned. And when we talk, and he's talked about the reconfiguration stage, the last stage, correct, that we discuss in his presentation, not the substitution, but the reconfiguration. I would like to have a few thoughts about how this internationalization can help in adapting and adopting these AI revolution, correct, in a manner that it is helpful for an individual as well as the community, correct. And as stated by him, AI is no more a tool, because there is a difference between a tool and an agent. All of you know what it means to be a tool. Tool will follow you. It will follow your instructions. You will program it. It will say, okay, it will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. An agent has kind of mind of its own. That means AI agent has ability to adapt to the environment, correct? Take decisions, set sub goals, and have chain of thoughts, right? Therefore, and interact with you on a real time basis. So it is an intelligent assistance to an individual, rather than extension of our own self in the form of non-biological thinking. And why this future is something different? Because first time in the history of the humankind, biological thinking is being assisted by a profound non-biological thinking. And as he rightly said, how do we work together as a collaboration and synergistic combination is something which is important, vital for all of us to think. Correct. There is a term all of you might know, that in an attempt to make digital human, humans are becoming digital, right? And it's a very profound statement. In an attempt to make digital human, humans are becoming digital. What this internationalization of the higher education can achieve, I will talk to you with respect to knowledge, because the way knowledge is being constructed in the classroom and in the society, and the knowledge networks are forming, has been profoundly influenced by AI agents, large language models. There are different types of knowledge, of course, 12 types of knowledge. I will not get into this. But one of the types of knowledge is explicit knowledge. That means the knowledge that is codified, that is captured in the tangible medium, such as when you write, you input it in the digital medium. Most of the large language models and these AI tools use this explicit knowledge, which is captured in the tangible medium, and then that data and information, as Asab is CEO of DeepMind said, is translated into knowledge based on the thinking, analysis, synthesis, so on and so forth. There is another type of knowledge. It is called tacit knowledge. What it means to be a tacit knowledge is the know-how every human has with him or her. Correct? And it's a well-established fact that we know more than what we say. Correct? We know more than what we can express, because our expression is a function of language, and knowing is not a function of language, right? Now, tacit knowledge is the know-how that every individual, boy or girl, man or woman, any human being has with him or her, that he has evolved with them. And it's one of the most prestigious natural resource in the society. Correct? This tacit knowledge is not codified. It is a function of the experience. Correct? It is a function of the interpretation. It is the function of the self-realization, so on and so forth, which somehow doesn't seem to be codified, thankfully so, and part of the so-called data and information. When the students from, say, India, and students from, say, Northwestern University for that matter, they will interact, same is with the faculty, from different cultures, from different point of view, from different background, they interact without the aid of the digital medium. Of course, Zoom is okay, but not as the part of chat GPTs. Then there is an exchange possible of this tacit knowledge, sharing of this tacit knowledge, correct? And then the way the value can be created for the individual or the group of individual is far beyond the value that will be merely created by virtue of the large language models. That doesn't mean that I'm saying we don't have to use AI, but we have to leverage this tacit knowledge, ability to have individual knowledge. In addition to this, there is another type of knowledge called as the subjugated knowledge, which is embedded in the society, because individual has their own tacit knowledge, and as a collective part, we have students from different parts of the world, say Zimbabwe I can see, and our participants. Every community has that knowledge embedded as a cultural evolution. So that's a subjugated knowledge, may not be codified. So when students from these different parts of the world, as a process of internationalization, they interact with each other, then the knowledge that will be constructed, that will form, will be of great value to those individuals. Correct? Students as well as faculty. And believe me, because there are many students, experience cannot be bought, as well as experience cannot be looked forward to from the large language models. It is individual, thankfully so. Experience, exposure is never there as a part of the any AI systems. Now, when this internationalization takes place, there are communities and the trusted communities form. And it is well established fact that the trusted networks and the trust is still the fundamental brick in the formation of the society. Correct. And when humans, that is our students and faculty, interact with the faculty from other parts of the world and vice versa from diverse cultures, so on and so forth, it's a trusted network community of practice that forms. Correct. And the last element that will be there, which of course again Professor Contractor sirs mentioned, is something is beyond this technology, which makes humans humans. Because when we collaborate with the AI and this, we should not forget that who we are, what we are, and what is the difference between us and the technology, so that we will not be used by the technology and we will work in collaboration with the technology. And what is the realization through this is empathy, compassion, love, correct, and human to human interaction and creativity through this entire process of unknowingly getting into the realm of divergent thinking and convergent thinking with our biology, our both sides of the brains are. Because when we talk to so many people around, there are different views, divergent thinking. I can think of the same solution, different problems, and from different problems I come to the same solution. And that is an enriching, enlightening experience that is far beyond AI agents. And that's what, in my personal opinion, internationalization of education can bring in. Because information somehow has commoditized, it is democratized, access to information for a certain, all of you is there, of course. As I said, there is a marginalized society, still it is not there. But now what will bring our students and everybody as a fraternity is this human to human enriching, enlightening interaction on the platform of this internationalization of education, which universities to universities can help and create this bridge. As I completely agree with Professor Contractor, as the technology intervention is there, it is not going to reduce or eliminate the travel. And I'm sure this time we could not because of some restrictions, but we look forward to Professor Contractor's visit as well as Dr. Rujula's visit here to see again on our collaborative efforts and take this entire mission forward. So from our side, I will give you only one example because it is not a professorial talk. I am just as a philosophy. We experimented this with two kinds. One is, for the first time we said, let us work. This is the second experiment. First time we did with Purdue University. The students from Vishwakarma University, then the students from Chulalongkorn University from Thailand. It is one of the oldest universities in Thailand. And students from State University of New York at Binghamton. They worked together on the same problem statement. The problem statement was same, but it was a task that each of this group will identify at least 3 to 4 approaches to find the solution independently. And then in the team, of course, along with the teachers, they will debate for these, say, 9 approaches and arrive at one approach. Correct. The students from the USA, they have way of thinking, from Thailand way of thinking, India way of thinking. But when they came together, they realized, oh my God, he thought or she thought like this. And when they came together, they had a different kind of experience. And then we arrived at one solution, and then it is taken forward in Singapore in NTU with one of the innovation ecosystems. Similar project we did long back with Purdue University. So students from our university, means VIT that time, and Purdue University worked together. They identified a solution with respect to the aircraft, and then that was taken forward by Boeing in Purdue University to take it to the next level of technology readiness level. And the last part, we have collaborative center of excellence with State University of New York at Binghamton, design thinking and innovation. Similarly, the faculty from SUNY Binghamton and our students, they have a great interaction and again enriching experience. Same is with Washington University of Science and Technology with we work. So as a part of internationalization, I personally see this as the way to construct knowledge, as a way to create this network community within the humans society, correct? students and this. The three, these are intellectual and cultural bridges that are essential nowadays when we are I would say hard pressed or avalanched by the information and the technology. And the fourth is our new education policy always helps us in internationalization, and it's a great encouragement by the government of India by virtue of the new education policy 2020, wherein internationalization is one of the key pillars. Correct. And we really look forward to learn from this. And again, I have no words to thank all our participants, our entire team, and Professor Noshir Contractor for having patience. So it's past midnight for him, and a great session. And as we move forward with this conference, it is not a mere conference. Listen, and because attention has a challenge, attention. I request all the students and the participants to explore possibility of internationalization and don't wait for the so-called MOUs to be signed. It is an individual part also we can do, we can interact. And that's the great example that right from the US and other parts of the world, Switzerland, we are there. So it's a process of internationalization. Thank you so much. And I wish all the participants and students a great enriching learning for this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Siddharth. For the first time, I'm seeing a Vice Chancellor delivering a keynote address for half an hour, and it shows your commitment and also the knowledge that you have shared. It is very relevant, and you have in-depth knowledge. Thank you so much, sir. And we have a lot of resources for the students, teachers, and research scholars on our website, including 4 million PDF books and research articles like that. If there is a chance, I would like to introduce that one to your audience. And this collaboration will continue with the Vishwakarma University. And wholeheartedly, I thank for approving this effort, and also I wholeheartedly thank the team that has worked meticulously behind the planning and execution of this workshop. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. What an insightful and thought-provoking session. So we are open for discussion. If you have any questions, online participants can put their questions in chat box. Even participants present here offline can also welcome to ask questions. Okay, so before we take a lunch break, I will take this opportunity to thank everyone present here. I would like to thank Professor Dr. Noshir Contractor for his thoughtful session. Then I would also like to thank Professor Dr. Siddharth Jabre for his session on internationalization on higher education. Then Professor Dr. Vasudev Gade, Honorable Vice President of Vishwakarma University, Professor Siddharth Jabre, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Vishwakarma University, Professor Dr. Chetan Kapadnis, Director Internet Quality Assurance Cell and Conference Organizing Chairperson, Dr. Supriya Lakangaonkar, Director Center for Teaching and Learning and Conference Organization Member, Dr. Kartika Devan, Member of Center of Teaching and Learning and Conference Convener, Ms. Rajula, Regional Manager, Globethics, South Asia Center, Bangalore, and Conference Convener. A big thank you to all the officers present here, faculty members, participant, and organizing committee members for their efforts in making this event a success. Last but certainly not least, the student volunteers who have worked tirelessly for this event. Once again, thank you all for being part of this remarkable event.